My name is Stacey Beal, and I am the high conflict relationship coach at O'Connor Family Law. This week, we're going to talk about how to talk to your children about a divorce and the impacts that it might have on them. It will impact your children. So, asking for a divorce, as we know, is an incredibly intimidating conversation to have. And many of us put it off because divorce is a life-altering decision that has long-term and unpredictable changes. But after the decision is made up and you have let your emotions calm down a bit between the two of you, you really need to decide the best time to talk to the children and really consider what their reactions are. So your spouse and you have made the decision to move forward, but put the brakes on, not so fast. You're not only changing your own life in a big way, but you have children. So today we're going to dive deep into how to appropriately talk to the children about the next step. So what to say when you're talking to your children? What is the best way to tell your children that their parents are getting a divorce or separated? So if possible, we're going to go right into this. You and your soon-to-be ex-spouse should really have a conversation first concerning what you want to tell the children and how you plan to tell them. So having that conversation together and present as a united front. This is going to help reinforce that you are still a family. So make sure that you have discussed prior how you're going to talk to the kids, because that is a very important piece. You don't want to come home and find out that your spouse has already told the children without you being present or having agreed in the conversation about how it's going to take place and the whys. You want to be there for these hard questions that are going to come from this conversation. So holding the conversation, what does that look like? When you hold the conversation with your children, you both need to start with telling the truth. So while you're entitled to your privacy, they're likely going to want to know why you are separating or divorcing. So give them a brief and age-appropriate answer to help clarify that situation. And we're going to go deeper in a bit on how to do it depending on the age of the children. So remind your children you love them. Your children, especially younger children, need this reassurance. They need to know you love them. Without that reminder, they may feel you could also fall out of love with them as well. Prepare for changes. Explain what is going to be different so they are not completely blindsided when confronted with the change. Point out what isn't going to change. You've told them what will change, what won't change. While your routines and normal activities will, some things may not. Point out those unchanged routines that you have, and at this point, you might not know all of them, and they might change, but tell them for present time what may or may not change. The next really important piece, listen. Leave space and time for your children to express their emotions and react to this news. If they don't have the words for their feelings, you can help by encouraging them to talk about what are they feeling. Avoid placing blame. Something very difficult when you may be going through a divorce. As we said, being a united front is so important, and even if you can't be united, you should somehow show some restraint when discussing the other person. That still is your child's parent. You're both still their parent. Placing that blame is going to impact your child. Avoid arguing. Arguing is going to make your child feel like they have to choose a side, isolate from either of you, or become a mediator, and that's not fair. Many times your children actually already have an idea that their parents' marriage is already failing. So you may think that they don't know, and maybe they don't, but many children already sense that there's something wrong in their parents' relationship. So you're giving them information, but how much is too much? We talked about being honest and telling them the truth, but we don't want to get too deep into the answers. There's no exact answer on how much is too much or how much is too little, but you should share with your children concerning the divorce. So in planning what you will share, you need to consider your child's age and maturity level. That's going to impact how much information they can handle. So here are some more age-based considerations. Let's touch briefly on the ages here, because then we're going to further break it down. So let's categorize the young children. They may not fully grasp that this is a final decision and their parents will still love them. When you break the news to them, incorporate language that really reinforces this is a permanent choice. And that reminds them that your love is also unchanged and will stay consistent. Grade school children may not understand that they're not to blame. They may feel that this is their fault. They might struggle with fantasies that you will reconcile again while they're processing all of their emotions. So when you tell them you're getting divorced, express your emotions, the sorrow, the loss of control, frustration, so that they actually also have an example of how to process their own emotions out loud. So you might want to consider some coping strategies that you use to express your emotions outside of voicing them. Teens, they might struggle against parental authority because they're feeling resentment or frustrated. In telling them about your divorce, remind them you don't want them to hide or suppress those emotions that they're showing, but set boundaries for what behavior and form of expression will not be accepted. Adult children. Some people divorce and have children who are of adult age. Be sensitive to the feelings of your adult children. Even though they're grown and you may not have to worry about custody or visitation because they're adults, you should still worry about their emotional health during and after your divorce. Where adult children still can struggle with their parents' divorce just as much as a younger child. If not, it actually could be even more. You may have been together for much of their entire childhood life, and even if you weren't, separation can impact their sense of normalcy and control. The worldview concerning relationships in a romance that they might be starting to get into. Views of the past, and especially their childhood. Was it fake, and were you lying to them their whole youth years, right? Also, remember their emotional and mental health. All children and adult children are going to respond differently. It's fairly well known that children of divorced parents tend to go through difficult times before, during, and after a divorce. So the effect of a divorce can be a long-lasting contribution to shaping how children view a marriage and a family. But what age is most affected by a divorce, and how can we take away and mitigate some of that trauma as a result of the divorce experience? I'd like to help you and help you with your children get through this divorce process. I understand the challenges of the divorce and its impact on the entire family structure. The psychological effects on divorce in children. It's typically stressful for all children. Some will cope better, but let's break those ages down now into even more of an age group. If you're divorcing when your children are quite young, you might hear people say, "Don't worry, they won't remember." However, this might not necessarily be true. A research study conducted in 2011 found that many children actually remembered very early on in their lives. However, as time passes, children are able to forget some of these early childhood memories. But it's important to realize that it doesn't mean it will not affect them. Parental separation for children under the age of 3. This is a tough one. They're young. They might become fussier when one parent is not around. They're harder to console. They might be more clingy or insecure around new people, as well as the parent that they're living with. They also may regress or miss developmental milestones. In addition, as these are formative years, the situation can be handled by having lasting effect and may cause more problems down the road. So there's a few ways we can ease the pain of transitioning your young children to a divorce. Set and maintain that consistent routine with as little disruption as you can. Make sure both parents are really also on board with keeping a routine. We don't want one household to have a really late bedtime or no structure, and the other to have the bedtime and the structure that is age appropriate. Create that loving and secure environment with both parents and expose the children to new people in emotionally safe ways. While it seems that although they progress slow at this age, it's best to remember the steps you take now will help their emotional well-being as they become older. Be patient and kind with that child as you are with one another as you work through this challenge together. And if your child is experiencing the loss of a parent, or you're finding yourself in the situation of single parenting, just do your best to create that secure love and support your child in the environment. That's for under the age of 3. Children's mental health and divorce between the ages of 3 and 5 is when a children is developing a little bit better and they're understanding abstract concepts. By that, we mean this is a big reason they ask so many questions, right? We know in life already children ask a lot of questions. They why everything. But this is a reason that they ask even more questions about divorce. However, their concept of divorce might also be outside of their grasp. It's around this age that children become more aware of fights between their parents and disagreements. They may feel responsible Typically, we see divorce impact children in this age group in the following way. Your child may react to fights between you and your spouse with tears, fear, and insisting that you stop fighting. They may feel as though the fights and divorce are their fault. This age group, again, may also experience difficulties with sleep, and they may feel a need for control. Typically, this group, 3 to 5 year olds, once things stabilize, they begin to feel a little bit more secure in their new family structure. However, that trauma left behind by these events may leave them confused with memories and emotions that go on. You might try to mitigate the effects of divorce with your children by the following. Establish routine and try not to deviate from that. Really set that as groundwork. Keep things as civil as possible with the other parent, especially in front of the children. Avoid loud fights, bad-mouthing the other parent in that child's presence. We don't want to have that issue. Avoid making your child as if they feel that they have to choose sides between you and the other parent. And really consider some mediation to establish some set routine across both households. This will help their emotional and behavioral well-being. Be patient with this age group. Do your best to answer their questions without being negative about the other spouse, and really offer reassurance that the divorce is not their fault while maintaining a routine. Provide them with that control and stability. After age 3 to 5, we're really going to start talking about children ages 6 to 12. These are elementary school and early middle school age children. They often have the most difficult time when it comes to divorce trauma. This is largely in part because they're old enough to remember your family as a whole, and they're also better able to understand the complex feelings associated with the loss of a family structure, as they know what to expect. At this age, feelings of guilt, conflict are also more pronounced. So your child might ask questions or make statements saying, "What did we do? If you love me, why are you leaving? I promise I'll listen. I'll be good. I promise. Please don't go." These questions and statements, along with others, really revolve around the child as they make sense in the role of divorce. Rather than understanding the family issue stems from problems between adults, they feel as the problem is within themselves. So these feelings and what happens during these years can lead to depression, other mental health and emotional behavioral challenges for your child. They may be more withdrawn, become anxious, and even stop communicating. So some children in this age group struggle with the change. They lash out in anger. This could be hurtful comments toward one parent, comparing parent experiences with their other parent. Their teachers may notice some challenges in the classroom regarding your child's relationship with friends and other adults, as well as schoolwork. While this group also seems to take divorce the hardest, there's a lot of things we can do for this age group as well. We can avoid fighting in front of the children, minimize the conflict, and work out details. We really want to make sure that you are communicating the right way with your ex-partner. And we work a lot about communication together. Remain actively involved in your child's life as long as it's the best thing for your child. Be there for their events. Provide love, support, and reassurance as they're really transitioning through this challenging time. Consider family therapy, right? If you feel the need that children have to talk to somebody, it can take years for them to process this major life change. So don't be afraid to seek out help for yourself. Talk to a therapist, talk to a coach through your law office, and see if you can help your children who are struggling with the parental divorce. So children's divorce counseling has really helped many children come to terms with what has happened and help navigate their feelings. How does divorce affect children that are teenagers? So teenagers are much more likely to understand the divorce and separation than a younger child. So for some, it might be a relief because they have constantly been witnessing family issues and fighting. Teens don't really seem to question their parents' love as much as a younger child because they find support outside of the home as well. However, that's not to say this isn't going to impact their life. So even though the acceptance generally comes more readily to a teenager, it's important you don't assume that they're okay. They already might spend time up in their bedroom, so now we need to check in when they're up in that bedroom. Make sure that you're able to provide that love and support while answering all the questions. So keep your eyes open for signs such as depression, including symptoms of eating disorders, anxiety, diminishing self-worth, self-esteem, psychological problems, and other seemingly attention-seeking behaviors. It might seem as though your teen is fine, but they are probably hurting from the inside as they're processing feelings regarding the divorce. So keep those lines of communication open for them and offer them the opportunity to speak with a counselor as well. So we've had these conversations now with our children. We're going to talk about some things that you should not say to your kids about a divorce. So if there is anything most people can universally agree on, it is that a divorce can be messy, particularly when children are involved. It's even messier, right? So during a divorce, the heightened emotions, the disputed finances, and other disagreements only add to the difficult process. The only consistency that you have is the chaos, the love that you have for your children, right? With that in mind, it's really important to take care of a child's physical and emotional needs during this. So here are some things we do not want to tell our children during a divorce. Don't tell a lie. Children are the most powerful lie detectors, understanding so much more than adults often give them credit for understanding. Transparency about this divorce, including changes in finances, new time constraints, gives children the valuable tool to deal with the real life situation and show them that you are valuing them. Don't speak the unguarded truth. While you don't have to lie to them about divorce, how that truth is told really does matter. So while you're being truthful with your children, avoid shelling out those hurtful statements toward the other parent. Leave those details out of it. Your ex is still their parent. You have to keep that in mind too. It gives your children another reason to respect you if you're not bad-mouthing the other parent. Don't argue in front of your children. By nature, divorce is difficult, and any child affected by this process is going to need to make adjustments. They're going to need some time to get used to their new normal, and many times this is easier said than done. However, refusing to engage in a verbal battle is a loving way to honor and protect your children from the ravages of the divorce. It's not a bad way either to reinforce how much you love them. Don't be pushy. Sure, many things are going to change after divorce. A new household, routines, maybe partners coming in and out of a parent's life sooner rather than later. And part of growing up is really learning how to adjust to changes in your life circumstance, right? We all have to adjust in life. So while you might be a pro as an adult, your children are still learning this lesson. So be mindful and give them that time to get used to this. Get used to these changes. Set the tone gently, and truly you need to be patient. Your children will thank you later, verbally or by example, or perhaps both. Whichever way the gratitude arrives, you're really going to be proud of them and yourself for the way that you conducted this. Don't hinder your expression. Children are people too, right? Therefore, they have their own opinion and things that they need to express about this divorce. So give them the opportunity to do so within the proper forum. A temper tantrum in the middle of a store or a screaming issue shouldn't be tolerated, right? We want to teach our children how to express themselves appropriately. Providing them with that safe environment to express how they feel about this situation really encourages trust in your relationship. It also fosters a healthier way for them to express themselves in a respectful and positive way. Believe it or not, a divorce can really be a teachable moment, and you may become the best teacher that they are about to have. Don't use your kids for inside information. There are plenty of ways to gather information about your ex-partner. Your children should not be one of those methods. Try to avoid asking your child to report on the other person's activity, finances, social outings, who they were with when they were together. If the other parent was on a phone call, what did they hear? If there's a situation that really gives you cause for concern, there's other avenues to explore to bring your children's safety and well-being to the forefront. Don't let them think that they're the reason this marriage broke down. Divorce can be a very frustrating event, but that sense of unease should never be taken out on your child. Never even suggest or hint that those children are responsible somehow for the marital breakdown. So children tend to internalize and blame themselves. However, it's not their responsibility for the adult actions. You and your soon-to-be ex are the adults in this situation. Let your kids be kids and keep the blame away from them. We don't want to hear, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be having these arguments. That's not a thing that we want to tell our children. If you've been the king of guilt tripping, it's time to dethrone for the sake of your children. Try not to make them feel bad for making choices that you don't particularly like. When your children want to hang out with the other parent instead of you, don't take it personally. Children need quality time with both of their parents if able. Respect that now, because the shoe will inevitably be on the other foot when your children wants to have the time with you instead and enjoy your company. Don't stop being a parent. Divorce doesn't make you less of a parent. parent. In fact, it means you have to step up these things. Divorce puts that single parent stamp on your parenting, and we want to hold those reins. We want to stay responsible. We want to get a handle on our finances, plot a new course, and become that best person you can be, right? That's what we're working on, making you the best person. The love that a parent has for a child never ends. We're going to work together to make sure we take care of you. We each have a special relationship with you. Be sure that the two of you really have a plan, because the questions of who's going where the children are going to go, it's likely going to be asked right away by your children. And what is the hardest part of divorce for children? Research is showing that the single factor in long-term adjustment for kids is the conflict that they see between the two of you. It puts kids in a very tough spot if they have to take sides or listen to negative things said about one of their parents. It's just as important to acknowledge these real pieces. So empower your children before, during, and after the divorce. It's not just difficult for the two of you. Always remember that. This is impacting the lives of everyone in your family. And while the divorce rate really is unfortunately climbing and is more common, that doesn't mean it isn't as painful for your children. Emotions really run high during a divorce, and while it can be a mental and emotionally draining experience for you and your partner, it's important to really still spend some time helping the children understand their own emotions in this new situation. Following a divorce, your children are going to need you more than ever. They're going to need you to spend time with them, offer support, build on the bond with your children, and help them really in the long run. Your parent responsibility to ensure that they feel safe, cared for, and loved throughout this process and forever. Peaceful co-parenting, it's vital when it comes to children and divorce. However, maintaining a healthy parenting relationship can be a challenge when parents feel their own pain and anger regarding this divorce. So while kids are adjusting over time, it's really important that you remember you need to tell the kids the divorce is not their fault. Provide that safe and loving environment regardless of their age. A child of a divorced parent shouldn't have to carry the burden of the divorce. So again, when you're ready to talk to your children, plan what you're going to say. Talk to your children together. That's not always possible, but when it is, talk to them together. Develop that non-blaming narrative, not dad's leaving us or mom had an affair. That's blaming. We're going to try to avoid that. Tell your kids why this is happening in that age acceptable way. Reassurance is key. Your children's reactions are completely normal to how they're feeling, and it's okay for them to react in the moment. Invite their questions, but don't pressure them to have questions, and really give them time to adjust to this news. Having a conversation like this is really going to be hard, but when you have had it and you allow children to respond and have open communication, ask questions as they feel the need to, you're forever going to allow them to be on the same page with you. If there's a restraining order in the picture, unfortunately, you have to abide by that restraining order. You likely will have to talk to your child by yourself. You're going to have to really make sure that you still try not to place blame and let your child know that due to the circumstances, this is the next step. If there's a restraining order, there might be some relief for the children. So can the other partner bring their new partner to pickups and drop-offs? I don't think that there's any law that you cannot bring somebody, but you want to be respectful for each other too, because we don't want this to be emotional or cause tension at a drop-off or a pickup. That should be a nice smooth transition for your children and not have adults arguing because you've brought a new partner with you. There are people who have asked for that not to happen as well in their situations. I'm hoping that this might give you a little bit of insight on how you can talk to your children regarding a divorce. Again, I'm here from O'Connor Family Law in Massachusetts, really working with clients of the firm to make you the best you and really help you through this process so that everybody can do this smoothly.